What's up, card fighters? My name is Naru Samurai, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about new cards for Fated Clash, but specifically a deck profile that I kind of missed talking about, and that is the one and only Thegrea. I know we're not talking about Razael, Varga, or any of the new cool stuff. We are going a little bit back and talking about a Cray Cross unit that actually got a good chunk of support with Razael. I thought it'll be about time to talk about it and see, does it stick up with the rest of the meta. So with that, sit down, get ready. We're gonna be talking for a bit and enjoy the video. So let's begin. You ever looking at your deck box and just wish there was more to it? Look no further, as Dueling Guard is your one-stop shop for all your TCG accessories. They carry many deck boxes and binders with a long list of characters ranging from Naruto, Bleach, Jujutsu Kaisen, Rising of the Shield Hero, and many more. If you're ready to level up your TCG experience, make sure to click on the link down below and use code NARU at checkout and enjoy your favorite new character on your lovely new box. So to go into a little bit, Thegrea is actually one of my favorite decks because in 2022 I was lucky enough to top with it and get an invite to Worlds when it was being held in California in 2023. It was overall my first Worlds and actually got me a little bit more into Vanguard because, you know, I wanted to be competitive. I was putting in my time and I never got that invite. And then when I finally got that invite, everything was kind of really good for me there. And I can never forget about Thegrea, even though my times of not liking the overdress format. Just the fact that like this deck got me somewhere, kept it true to my heart and stayed with overdress because of it. So not to hold you up any further, let's get into the list. So over here, we're going to be going one by one into the Thegrea list. And I thought I'll talk a little bit about the ride line and then go into the 3, 2, and 1 and end it with 0. So to start off, we do need to talk about the new ride line that includes this guy and these prices. Yeah. So welcome into the new Divine Z format where we are going to be needing these cards to use our new resource into the game. And overall, you know, it's not a bad mechanic. I just wish this was easier attainable, or if you can use your own counters, because we are being only allowed to use either the counters or the markers that they provide us. But if you like play it locally, we do have some mats on my site with the counter on top of the mat. So if you do enjoy playing on some of the Vanguard symbols and all that, you do have that option there. But going into the rest of the ride line, we do have our basic Thegrea lineup over here. We are running the 0, following by Pink Moth in the ride deck. Overall, the 0-1s aren't doing really much in skill. They have no abilities. The reason the Pink Moth Maple is in the ride deck is just to easily Soul Blast it out, and in doing so, we can call it back in the game when we start riding Thegrea. So it's just a later game card that we want to get out of the Soul because we don't want to search for it in the deck or run it at more than one copy. Overall, the main card we do want to talk about here is the grade 2 and the grade 3. When we go into the grade 2, we are going to be able to, when ridden upon, check top 5 for Maple or Thegrea. We're just looking to get our Epic to Justice or even another Maple grade 2 into our hand, as well as Oath of Vengeance if we don't get to see our grade 2s early in the game. But overall, just a solid card getting us set up. And if we do fail with this, we do have Life Thegrea skill, which does a little bit of the same. On that Counterblast 1, look at top 5 and call 1 to the field. So overall, just giving us a chance to call more units out. And if we did miss on here, we still have an opportunity here to get the Maple out of deck. Outside of that, we are going to want this Maple mostly in Soul because it is one of the units that's going to be able to restand a column if we're choosing between it or Dark Thegrea. But with that, we are going to be finishing up with the right line and going straight into grade 3s. For grade 3s, we are running 4 copies of, I can't really say new because set 11 has been a bit from now, but 4 Epic to Justice Thegrea, which says when it is riding on top of Thegrea, it does copy its name, and then you search your deck for Thegrea with a different card name. After that, you are going to be able to discard a card from hand and binder, and then ride that other Thegrea on top of Epic to Justice and activate Persona Ride. This is a good way because we're going to be activating Persona Ride probably twice per turn. There is going to be some situations where we only activate Persona Ride once, but being able to do so with even Oath of Vengeance Thegrea, we're going to have a lot of opportunities there. The reason I'm bringing up Oath of Vengeance at this point is because when we Persona Ride Thegreas, we're going to be doing it a multiple of 1 to 2 times, and with Oath of Vengeance, instead of giving 10k and drawing 1 card for Persona Ride, we are going to be giving 15 and then drawing 2. And if we're Persona Riding twice, it's going to be 30k, drawing 4. overall, it's going to be giving us a good hand size to compete with the current meta because, like I said back in 2022, the hand size is the way to play overdress. If you're able to maintain 10 or even more cards in hand, you most likely are surviving to the next turn, which gives you an opportunity to take the whole game there. But with that, we are going to go into our next Thegrea, which is the one who blossoms in darkness, Thegrea. So this is going to be the opposite of the light Thegrea and the one Epid Justice will be searching for. Overall, its main skill is you may retire 2 of your units and be able to pop one of your opponent's columns. That is probably a okay skill for the most part. Its main thing that it doesn't want to be able to do is to, at the end of battle when it attacks, counterblast 1, discard a card from hand, and restand her. With that, we are going to be using Pink Moth skill if we do go into Dark Thegrea, where the Pink Moth behind her is going to be able to restand with her. So you are going to be able to maintain around 56k on the Vanguard outside of triggers. Overall, a really good combo just with the 3 cards right here. But we got to go through a little bit of tech pieces with that. And our next tech piece that I do want to talk about is 2 copies of Sages. Now, this is a tech piece. Like I said, you do not need to run Sages. I do understand that it's a pretty pricey card, but with Sages' skill and just being able to guard for 10k and as well as do something with the OT if you did see it early and put it into drop zone, adds a lot of opportunities that you can use with it. So for the most part, Sage's skill is if your opponent did pull a trigger, it then becomes plus 10k power and plus 10k guard. So you are going to be able to use it as a 10k guard from hand, which is something that is very lacking in Overdress. Just being able to use a 10k instead of giving up one of your 15ks is major for the most part. Then we go into the main part of the skill, which is Counterblast 1. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put it into the top of your deck or into your soul. And then if you want to, you can Counterblast 1 and give this unit plus power equal to your opponent's Vanguard if they're 14k or greater. And then if you have the over trigger in your drop zone, you may bind it and give it plus 15k. Overall, a really good card for the most part. It does make it a 28k base just by getting rid of the OT, but you do have the option of getting more power if your opponent is also bigger. So it does add power, it doesn't meet power. So if your opponent is 23k base and he's already 33, it will be adding that 23 to his current power, making him a 56 plus the OT skill, a pretty much 71k attack. So you are making a pretty big number for that one attack, trying to just push through and finish games. Well, like I said before, a tech piece, I do know it's pricey, and you do have a lot of options outside of that. Next, we are going to go to our next card, and I know we said that this is not a Razael list, but we do run 2 copies of Razael. So the reason this is actually kind of funny. We do around 2 to 3 persona rides with Epid Justice, and once we do that, the rough part is we pretty much have no deck afterwards, but we do go through a good chunk of the deck anyway. So the chances of returning at least 5 to 7 crits back to the deck is pretty likely, and in doing so, you are willing to do it for the fact that if you have 2 cards left in deck and then you ride Razael, you at least can make a turn out of it. Outside of that, it does activate its divine skill, so if you do hit one of those triggers, thinning out the deck as much as possible, you do survive for that attack and may be able to continue the game afterwards. Like I said, it is a tech piece, just like Sages, that is just going to allow us to survive later in the game after we've already pushed our opponent so far. He may be dealing with 3 to 5 cards in hand, so just being able to go into Razael and probably push for that game at the end is going to be the nice and better way to do it. But with that, we are going to go into grade 2s. So for grade 2, I do want to start off by talking about 4 copies of Retrospective Dragon. The reason we're kind of running Retrospective Dragon is just to gain the Oath of Vengeance. Like you looked earlier, we did run 1 copy of it. We don't want to damage it, and we do want to see it in our hand. So just waiting to get to that grade 2 turn and be able to activate Retrospective just to search it out and get it onto the field is highly wanted. So you don't want to miss that opportunity there. Now, its second skill is based on preference if you do like doing it. If you are on Dark Thegrea and you attack twice with Dark Thegrea first after being boosted by Pink Moth Maple, you may choose to retire that Pink Moth Maple and give 5k to the grade 2 Maple. Outside of that, you may want to swing with it first if it's going to be the restanding unit, just to give an additional 5k to your Light Thegrea if you are doing that turn as well. Overall, that one's a little bit gimmicky. It's what you feel works best. as well as you do want to make sure this attack is kind of worth attacking with as your first swing. But overall, your choice at the end of the day. Next, we do want to talk a little bit about Fate Clash, because that is the set that we are working with right now. And we do run 3 copies of Biscotti. Overall, we did used to run Cutie Angel here, but now we are running Biscotti, which kind of takes use of that energy that we haven't actually touched yet. And when we discard her for hand or put her in Guardian Circle, we can Energy Blast 3 to draw a card. Overall, really solid way to just keep cards in hand. Outside of that, if you do play her onto the field and you persona roll that turn, you will be able to look at top 3 and put 1 into your field or on top of your deck, and then put 2 copies on the bottom of your deck. So with that, you're going to be able to stack the deck as well that way. Not very much different from other ways. We were doing that with Sages. We're doing it with Biscotti. So, you know, we got a little bit of Oracle Dink Tank happening there. So that's pretty well. Outside of that, we haven't talked about it, but yes, we do run the 3 copies of Maple, just for the fact that she's not really doing us any favors early game because we don't run that many Drilling Angels, but we are being able to get her out to the field as soon as possible, and we do want to see her just to make things easier on setting up the field. So 3 copies is the way to go, in my opinion. You either see it or you don't. You have a lot of ways to see it, so, you know, for the most part, I think you'll get it in your hand. With that, we do run 2 copies of Drilling Angel. This one is, like I said earlier, a weird slot now with Maple, but it's still kind of needed and can give you that one or few options to be able to guard more without wasting a lot of resources. If you do use your OT in hand early, you don't have a Sages yet, or choose not to use a Sages, you can just guard with the OT, then call Drilling Angel the following turn, put the OT back in Soul, and if you kept your grade 0 from your right deck still in there, you can Soul Blast it out with Maple and then put the OT back into your hand, and thus you have another 50k guard. That same thing applies if you had a grade 1 in Soul. I do know that we are Soul Blasting the Pink Moth as soon as possible, so you do need to provide another grade 1 into that Soul. So maybe seeing 2 Drilling Angels at that moment is probably needed, but with that, you know, you have those little options and those opportunities right there to do so. Now, with that, we are going to be going into grade 1s, which kind of covers the main thing of what this new Thegrea deck is doing. So for grade 1s, we do have the new copy of our Thegrea card, which is going to be Nido Evil / Mayrig. Overall, kind of an interesting card. It is not in the Fated Clash set. It is a promo that was released around the same time. And with it, we are going to be able to Persona Ride while our opponent's at grade 3, which was an issue with the deck, because once our opponent got to grade 3 and then we went to grade 3, we are actually falling behind, as you will, because we didn't have any Persona Ride opportunities because we don't run masks. And because of that, we kind of were 1 turn behind to keep up with whatever the meta had. They did give us Oath of Vengeance at that time, but we still had to wait 1 more turn to come in that strong. But with Mayrig, it does solve that issue, giving us the ability to Persona Ride once while our opponent's at grade 3 already when we go into our grade 3 like Thegrea turn, as well as thin out the deck, because if you see here, we are going to be binding it, searching our deck for 2 Thegreas, Epithet Justice and Dark Thegrea. The Dark Thegrea would go to Soul, Epithet Justice would go onto the Vanguard Circle, and then we're going to be able to activate Persona Ride with doing Epithet Justice skill. With that, we don't get double Persona Ride that turn, but, you know, getting that 1 is kind of solid. But we are able to do something else, which is kind of interesting, which if we are going first and we did get to grade 3 first and we chose not to do our skill because your opponent does need to be at grade 3, on the following turn, if we have Epithet Justice in hand, we can ride Epithet Justice, search for Dark Thegrea, put it to Soul, and if we do have the Mayrig in hand, we can call Mayrig to the field, bind her, search for another Epithet Justice and Dark Thegrea, and put the other one in Soul and ride Epithet Justice. The reason we're kind of mainly doing this is just to thin out the deck, so we mostly have cards to guard with and triggers, because we are kind of pretty much removing the majority of our grade 3s in doing so. So thinning out is actually a solid way to just guarantee more triggers and guardable pieces into our hand. With that, we do go into our next thing, which is going to give us more cards in hand, which is new Saragon? Surgo? If you guys know how to pronounce this, please let me know. But the new box topper for Fated Class, which actually kind of puts Painkiller to shame for the most part. It kind of sucks, but it's such a good card. It's so much better than Painkiller. But if you have more regards than your opponent, and at the end of battle this unit boosted, you are going to be able to retire this card, check top 2, and add 1 card to your hand and 1 to the bottom of the deck. Other than that, while boosting, if you have more rear guards, you also get an additional 5k power, so he is a 13k booster. Overall, a pretty solid card in my opinion, and I do hope to see more of it being used in Razael. I know Razael is running this at 4. You can easily just keep calling it out with Razael skill. Um, Honestly, very solid card. I do think a lot of Keter decks are going to take advantage of this. It's also in Luard, so this dog is like perfect. But with that, we go into our very basic grade ones with 1 copy of Elementaria and our 3 PGs. Nothing really much to say there, though. You know what they do: PG and keep us alive. And if our opponent is Sentinel restricting us, we have our other PG right here. With that, we are going to be going into zeros, and you know, it's not very nitpicking on the zeros over here. We do run a total of not 4 but 7 crit. I do know, yeah, wait, you're running Razael, don't you run more crit, maybe 8? Kind of weird, because I kind of want to guard too, and I'm running 4 fronts. They are 20k guards, so I kind of don't want to lose out on shield yet, but I may make the bite and put in a 4th copy of our critical trigger over here, but I haven't made that move just yet. But we do run 7 crit, 4 front, 4 heal, and as you guys can see here, I'm still on a deciding factor on which one of these heals I want to run, or if I just want to run 4 copies of the basic 15k heal. The reason why is because I do want to know where BCS does take the deck going forward. I'm not confirmed playing this. I could end up playing Razael or Bladmeyer or this for fun, but I'm still trying to decide which one is going to be more impactful. I do know Zorga is going to be able to have units call back out to the field, so this is kind of like redundant and can't be used, but we are dealing with a lot more critical rear guards that maybe this card does take a better advantage. So just looking at the options there and what we can pretty much do. But with that, we go into our last trigger that I know you guys really want to see. Is it the blue OT? Is it the Keter OT? It is the red OT for the most part. I do know a lot of people don't favor the red OT as much, but I do feel like this is a good way to push in this deck if being able to see, since we always have a column that's standing, or if we're on Razael, we have a column being called out. Just the ability to have a free column to give this 100 mil to an attack twice with is going to give that extra push, because we're only maxing out at like 4 attacks. We're not getting 5. So just having that option is really good. But that is pretty much it for the deck. It's a pretty simple deck for the most part. Thegrea is doing its thing, and honestly, it's competing with some of the other decks. I played it against Razael and Varga, and it does pretty well into it. You know, it has its missing pieces half the time. You do see a lot of good consistency, but you always have those weird bad games going back and forth. So if you do want to play a little bit more of a funny deck over playing Razael, you do have that option there. But with that, that's it. It's going to be it for the video. If you did enjoy content like this, please click the like button down below. And if you want to see more like this, please subscribe and tell me what deck do you want to see next. Other than that, it's been really good trying to make content again, and probably editing this in the near future. That I kind of want to know what everyone's thinking about Vanguard, or what is the next thing you want to see Divine Z do, or overall, what's your favorite deck? Because, you know, I want to make more content going over some other deck ideas outside of what the norm is. But with that, that is going to be it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.